I have an agenda in front of me, but I'm assuming that we have to approve the minutes.
Yes.
Okay, so I'd like a motion to approve the minutes. Michelle?
I make a motion to approve the minutes from the last,
May
looking
20.
for my agenda, in the last meeting.
Yep.
Okay. Is it proper for the chair to second? That there's
it-
only two of us?
Yep, and you're going to have to vote on them. So
Okay. Okay, I second. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
unanimous.
Okay. What was the
Okay.
next thing on the agenda, Craig? The
We
policy?
had no old business, so it's new business.
Okay, which is all the new items,
Yeah.
new
and so-
policies.
Yes, and while we have 19 policies, they're really primarily around the COVID
Correct.
opening.
Yep.
So legal counsel has asked us to amend or create some policies. So I think it would be helpful if you have the summary document in front of you.
Yep.
I coded it with either a T for the temporary. So
Yep, I got that. Yep.
it would go into effect for just this school year, and they would kind of auto delete unless extended by the board on June 31st, 2021. When we get to a couple policies, there are some permanent changes, but to very few, and those were pretty much statutorily driven. So if you'd like, I can kind of just go over the thoughts of them.
I actually read through them, and Michelle, I'm thinking expeditiously since we have all these pages.
Yeah.
What's your pleasure, Michelle? You want to do each one? You want to do them as a group? You want Craig to go into detail about each one of them, or how do you feel about it?
If you had questions, we could answer
Yeah.
questions. This would go, if it meets your approval, we would put these on the August 5th board agenda for the full board, and we would likely be asking for a motion for approval at that time, so that we have them set in place for the beginning of the school year, and we can have them, the right sections denoted in our student handbooks.
All right, well, why don't you go ahead and start with the three new ones?
Yeah, I did read through them. I have a few questions, but only when you get to the ones related.
Sure.
Right.
And Joy just joined us as well.
Okay.
So the first is a new policy, just around temporary policies in general, because normally we have policies that are perpetual. So this one is basically just outlining that these would go away as of June 30th. The next policy is policy 3255, and it's concerning health and safety protocols. So,
The
we're
administration of those, yeah.
administrating, and you probably noted some of the ways we're going to be doing that with the plan that we submitted to
Yep.
the state Friday. So that's the new policy as well. And then there's a new policy, 4736, the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, which is a federal leave act, so that if people need to quarantine, they would be held harmless of using any paid time. It would be time granted. So we needed a policy to affirm that.
Are there any questions about the new policies? Hi, Joy.
If you wanted to
Hey,
speak,
guys.
Joy, there you go.
Honestly, I don't know if I have questions. There were so many documents. I'm not comfortable commenting on anything because I really haven't had the chance to go through them in detail. Is it
Okay.
just, are the changes only highlighted in yellow?
Correct.
Oh, okay, then it's not as bad as I thought. Okay,
Yeah.
never mind.
So,
You didn't feel like reading War and Peace last night?
know, it is not policies. I understand that, and normally I don't give that amount for us to adjudicate in a meeting, but because they were all COVID related and temporary, we highlighted everything that they're and the they is shipping a good one, suggesting to put in our policies around the COVID stuff. And where you see some track changes, those would be permanent changes that we're asking for, and I'll get to those when they come up.
So, if there is no more discussion on the 3 new policies, I'll entertain a motion to approve the 3 new policies.
Second,
Ah,
policies as presented, correct?
Yes.
Second.
Well, we
That's
need a
right.
motion first.
Oh, hold on.
It'd just be a simple motion to pass the new policies as
All right, can I
presented.
make a motion? Is that legal for me to make a motion? Craig?
anyone on the board can do that.
Why not?
Well, because I'm acting as chairman today.
Oh,
Craig's not here. So, all right, I make a motion that we approve the 3 new policies as presented, the 3 new temporary policies as presented.
second.
Any
I'll
discussion?
first. No.
Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
I,
Aye. It's unanimous. Okay. All right.
So
now we're on to the
now-
policy. Yeah.
Yeah, the policies that are going to be revised. So on our school volunteer, we're asking some temporary revisions for allowing administration to have some flexibility on restricting non-essential volunteers to the school building. We've already noted this on our plan moving forward to the state.
Right.
It's not like we don't want visitors, but we want to
Right.
curtail the amount of extra.
And I would imagine that we've got, the issue of masks and do they, if we do allow volunteers in, are we going to have them tested and all that sort of stuff too, Craig? Is that part of the policy?
Not tested, but definitely wearing masks.
Okay. So it's the volunteers, the visitors, and renting of the facilities for the
That's
first 3.
Correct.
And then it's sanitizing and cleaning. And then it's the criminal background check. I actually had some questions on because I think that's important whether we're in a COVID world or not.
Does anyone have any questions on the visitors to schools, the use of facilities, the green
Or
cleaning?
sanitizing, yeah. Or volunteers. And we'll go right to the criminal background checks. It
So
said
this
that
is-
it might be delayed and it didn't have a time frame in there. And I don't want to see us get stuck with someone falling it through the cracks and then be eating our words afterwards.
Yeah. So, what it's saying is there might be, some delay in
Right.
the national criminal check background. Right now, those are turned around, say, in usually several weeks, which means that, if something pops and comes back, that we need to have a discussion with the employee or to say they can no longer work with us, then we would do that. This is
But
just
the delay was so subjective that, I mean, it could be forever, the delay. There was
Well,
no real,
when you submit fingerprints to the FBI, we're at their
Yeah. mercy.
mercy as to when to get them back. So I don't think it holds us in any bad place. It's just almost acknowledging that in light of a public health emergency, there may be some glitches to the normal
Yeah.
process. We're fortunate that we haven't had to hire many permanent people, but we may have to hire numerous substitutes. So
Exactly. Um, is there some way of saying we will revisit the situation? We'll check on this after a certain time period or something like that? Or
well,
what do you think?
any of these that are highlighted in yellow will
Yep.
remain highlighted in yellow.
Right.
They're finalized, and they will auto delete as of June 30th, 2021. So unless the board takes affirmative action to extend it for a set period of time. So this would really only be for this school year in which we're still battling this pandemic issue. This will not be a permanent part of our policy.
Yeah, but for it to go on for the whole year worries me.
Well, I don't expect that we wouldn't hear back for a whole year, but I don't believe legal counsel could say what that time period delay would be. So
Yeah.
they are leaving the policy a little open-ended. But again, I believe that everyone will work to their capacity at the state and federal level to get us the information back on employment checks.
Yeah,
Right.
we can always come back and change it. It's just automatically they go away at the end of the year
That's
Right.
correct.
if nothing's
I'm
done.
just worried
about it.
about somebody who might have a background that we don't want them in there, and they're sneaking in for this year without our knowledge.
Yeah, I mean,
That's and it's a 1 in a million shot that might happen, but that 1 in a million shot really does damage to our whole system.
Yeah.
and while I agree with that, and there are other ways to kind of try to tease out that information around reference checks, and those things would still go on as
Okay.
well. So, while we like to have the whole package to kind of prove everything, we'll certainly do our best achieving as much information as we can on the employment checks, and if we have to wait for a little on the fingerprints, we might have to wait.
All right. Should we do them all as a group, or what's your pleasure, Michelle and Joy? Should
If you
we
want,
keep going until we have questions?
Sure.
Yeah, why don't we do that?
Yeah.
Okay. The next one
Yeah.
is the
Computer monitoring. Yep.
acceptable use policy, and it basically is saying that even if you're off our network, you still need to, act accordingly.
Right.
In your computer searches and use of the equipment.
Right. The next one is about absences.
Absence, student attendance, and truancy, and this is where we'll need to monitor and be creative about if students are not engaging, how to not engage, and if the students have a COVID case, maybe a secondary student that we need to still quarantine them, but kind of make sure that they're still engaged with us. So
Yeah, I have a question about that one because, I was getting confused by all of them, but looking at just the areas of yellow, I'm not sure that I see clearly how you're going to track truancy if we're doing a virtual world, and how if someone's still going to get pinged for having chronic absenteeism in a virtual world.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily in this plan, but in the plan that we submitted to the state, we are going to be taking, daily attendance.
Yeah.
So schools take attendance within the school day. In elementary and middle school, and high schools take period attendance. So that same process will be going on virtually, because we would expect that the students virtually would still be on Google Classroom at their time period, and they would be able to hear the audio of the class and see the Promethean board during class if they're virtual.
And then if they have COVID, are they still able to attend school, attend virtual school or virtual classes, that option?
If they experience COVID and can attend virtually, they would be allowed to, because again, that would not impact any other students.
Right.
If they were medically unable to attend, then that wouldn't be used against them into, chronic absenteeism because of a medical illness.
Okay, because just the symptoms are so varied. I would think that, there might be some students or teachers that can't do, potentially anything, but then there might be students or, parents even of students that, their symptoms are less, and the parents are like, you can still attend school because you can't go to school, but you're not, as sick as you could be. I was just wondering if they still could attend virtually.
Yeah, so right now, if students elect to go to school, then they're expected to go to school. And
Right.
if they're elect to go virtual, then they go virtual. So if a student who's doing it virtually comes down with it, then they can still attend virtually. If a student who's in school, I think you would have to kind of see that they're not a flu related, because a flu related, we just say you're missing some school. If it is a protracted illness, they could then switch over to virtual, but it would have to give us like probably a week's time to kind of just get everything set for that. So it wouldn't be for every little absence we'd be switching back and forth. There would be a little bit of time about the choosing and then the re-choosing of which students are attending.
Okay.
Any more questions on 5010?
Well, I'm on the second, 5010, but the second one, I had two in my email for some reason, but section 3 says, the board will comply with everything, attendant requirements of students who choose not to participate.
Mhm.
The students don't choose to participate, right? Don't the parents have to provide some approval for them to stay home and do the virtual?
Yes. So there will be a link set out to parents if they're electing to ride the bus or not, and if they're electing to not send their kids, so we would know exactly which students in which classes would be having virtual students. And then, as I was saying to Michelle earlier, if you wanted to switch that to say, I want to attend school and want to ride the bus, there might be, up to a week just so that we get everything in place, all the safety measures that we would need to make sure that student has a spot in the bus, has a spot in the classroom to go back and forth. So people can choose, and the adult would be the person making the choice. And then if you wanted to switch back, there might be just a notifying period before you can switch over.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions on that one? So 5090.
So this is on health assessments and screening. So normally we screen children as they arrive in grades 6, 7, 9, and 10. And what our policies temporarily would say is that we're going to be doing it in, grades 7 and 10.
Six
No, 6
or
and 9.
7. Yeah.
6 and 9. So we're going to just do it in 2, one in the middle school and one in the high school, not 2 in the middle school, 2 in the high school, to hopefully alleviate any issues with parents trying to get those physical screens.
Okay.
On the flip side, you have more time in between where students potentially aren't getting vaccinated or doctor's appointments, or right? Correct?
Well, right now we require kind of 4 screenings in the secondary, and we're going to bring that to 2. And again, it's only for this year. So there might be some students who aren't required then the annual physical, but they're every other, but just for this 1 year only.
Okay.
Any other questions on 5090?
No.
Yeah,
Going on to 5180?
so this is
Discipline.
our large student discipline policy, and it includes here that if you choose not to wear a mask, that could be subject to school discipline, and if you're learning virtually but still are acting out, that that's not acceptable. So how you turn in your assignments need to be proper, and if you're communicating with the teacher into the classroom, you need to act proper, and
Right.
or otherwise you're subject to some discipline.
I know one of the things that we talked about on the teaching and learning committee was specifically this, some wise guys are going to decide to do, spit on somebody or take their mask off and everything. So they were going to make it absolutely clear as day in all the student manuals ahead of time what is the violation and what the consequences would be. So is that going to not only the high school, but the middle school and the elementary school too? Is that
Yes.
clear cut?
Yes. So
Okay.
that's why we're having this meeting here, and we're trying to get it on the August 5th board meeting, and hopefully
Right.
passed on August 5th, so that then those rules can be codified into student handbooks, and then this would go out in the annual notification for all parents as additions to our policies for this year.
Right. And not just the rules, but the consequences. If you do this, this is the consequence.
Yeah, so annual notifications for parents, and then student handbooks would have those
Right.
consequences delineated in the schools.
Okay. Any other questions on that one?
So there is, pursuant a public act, some revisions, and you'll see that on the track changes on letter E, when it's basically saying that they just cleaned up possession, unlawful possession, sale, or distribution or consumption of drugs. So just kind of being clear, and e-cigarettes and vape products are included in that mix. And that is it for that. So that would be a
I just have a question in terms of the wearing the mask, and I'm looking for it right now. Are you following, is that policy of not wearing a mask going to follow whatever the state and Department of Public Health says? Or could it possibly change mid-year where, I'm just wondering, will it stay the same all year, or could it possibly change mid-year? And then the students are like, well, the state says we don't have to wear them, but you're saying we do, and there's this battle between parents and school.
Yeah, we'd be following what the public health says. this is basically saying if, if public health is saying you need to wear this, then a student just can't say, I don't want to wear it for my, free speech rights. We're saying we can discipline you in school for that.
Okay, so when Department of Health makes that decision to change that
That would apply to the school setting.
the school policy, okay.
Yeah, good question. The next is the acceptable use for students. So we talked about acceptable use for adults using equipment. And this was saying, you may be bringing a Chromebook home and you may be using your own internet, but we still expect that you use the tools proper and that you're basically going to follow, that internet safety.
Right, and you went over the one with the bus conduct and transportation is the same as the other one. It's going to follow the CDC guidelines.
Correct.
523. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I did walk over that one. Yeah.
That's okay. Any questions on either of those? Okay,
No.
moving on to 5240, privacy.
240. So this
Privately owned computers, yeah. Excuse me.
yeah. So you might have seen in our state plan submission, we're expanding the BYOD to more than just the high school, to the middle school, to elementary schools, because we are hoping to use Seesaw and Google Classroom within the school and virtual, so that there's one set of planning for teachers. And so we're saying that on this one, it reflects that privately owned technology may be used during instructional time, may be necessary for digital learning platform or remote, and that if they're using our network, that we're monitoring that. But if it's not using our network, they need to act accordingly. And because it's their own personal property, they do need to make sure that they are careful with it, transporting it back and forth.
Right. I just worry if everybody's got a different, I was having trouble because I have Mac and you guys all have HP, so the compatibility sometimes is an issue and getting used to different systems. But that's the difference.
That would be the difference. We have an IT staff, but all of these are web-based apps, so it works pretty ubiquitous on whichever device coming in. The chair of the board would be a better expert than I am as far as that.
Any other questions on 5240?
No.
If not, moving on to 9325, meeting conducts, which we've been doing actually. So
we have, and so this is just saying that as a board, part of your bylaws is that you'd be allowing these types of virtual meetings during this pandemic time.
Okay. Now these are so shall we vote on all the temporary ones?
Sure.
All the policy revisions, all the policy revisions that we had so far, and then we'll go on to the new permanent policies. What's your pleasure, members? Sound good?
Yes, sounds good. Let's vote.
Yeah.
So we'll have a motion that all the policy revisions to our existing policies, temporary and permanent, will be accepted as presented.
Second.
Any more discussion? If not, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, unanimous again. And no abstentions. Okay, so Now we're moving on to new permanent policies.
Yes, so the first one is on purchasing, and federal law requires that school districts who receive federal funds implement a written code conducting how it covers conflicts of interest governing actions of federal funds. And for us, this would include into federal award grants, child nutrition programs, and it kind of outlines the procedures for purchasing goods and services with fairness and integrity. So this is a model policy for which we've suggesting adoption that came about because our auditors noted that we didn't have this policy in our policy manual, and it is a best practice. I can say that we have been following all these rules and procedures, but when someone suggests that we should have it, I'm saying sure.
Any questions? I have a little aside. Are we still feeding kids through the summer?
We are.
Okay, good.
In the summer, we always feed kids in conjunction with New London meals program.
Oh, okay.
Every summer, regardless of pandemic or not, our students get access to the meals program through New London. And then when school starts operationalizing again, if we have students who are learning virtually, meals will be given to them probably through Clark Lane again, as we did in the spring.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, I just, the purchasing term is kind of throwing me. Procurement to me is like buying supplies and things like that. But the language here is like awarding contracts. So is there a definition? Because it's pretty confusing to me. And then there's nothing, if it's contractual, there's no bid process or requirement to RFP or RFI.
Yeah, so in some of the federal grants, some of the contractual obligations we might get into would be on professional development. So if we use some federal funds to do PD in-service for teachers, it would be what components have to go into a contract. We necessarily wouldn't be putting that out in an RFP bid to bid. I don't know if that helps answer some of your questions, Joy.
No.
Okay.
I just don't think it's clear. Did the lawyers approve this?
They did. This is the model Shipman and Goodwin policy for purchasing using federal funds.
But with federal funds, because I don't know if this will help you, I get state and federal funds as well for my nonprofit. With we don't have to go to bid with federal funds. You can. I don't know if I'm saying the same thing, Craig, but with state funds, we do have to go to bid, and we do have to, follow a lot more of the state policies. But with federal dollars, we don't have to go to bid, and spend those, a little bit more. There's a more leeway on how we spend them for speakers. I mean, you have to obviously spend it in the deliverables that you stated when you applied. You are very specific, in how you said you were going to spend it, but you don't have to necessarily go to bid for a particular speaker. They just ask, who is the speaker? How much is it? How much do they cost? How often are they speaking? But it's not like you have to choose between 3 people with the best bid. Does that help, Craig, or hurt?
No, you basically, went a little bit deeper as to what I was trying to say. So is there a question, Joy, that I could ask the lawyers then to seek the clarity that you need?
Well, I'd have to spend more time on this because,
Okay,
like I said, I really didn't have.
It'll come before the board too. Not when is it coming before the board on the 5th?
if it comes out of the policy committee, then it would. And because this one,
Is a special meeting, right?
well, this particular policy though would require 2 readings.
Okay. So
you
Joy's got time to look it over.
Oh yeah, okay then, that's good.
And
Okay.
also even with supplies, like I know that we're getting federal funds for supplies, and they're not requiring where we have to get the supplies. It's just kind of, if you find them, you can get them wherever you want, and hopefully you don't, spend an exorbitant amount. It is your dollars to spend where you want and where you can find the supplies that you need for safety or for structure, to have in the school.
Right.
So.
Any other questions?
Yeah, well, that's not what the procedure says, so that's why I need time to go through that.
Okay.
I
It says
think
right
you'll
here,
have it, Joy, because we won't. The next meeting is a special meeting, and it, like I said, there's 2 readings anyway. So
Yeah,
you
I'll
should
have
have-
questions by then.
Okay.
shall we move on to physical activity 5120 recess?
Yeah. So this policy, would is revised based upon Public Act, and it's just directing the time for unstructured play in an elementary. 20 minutes is required, which is right in line with our afternoon recess, if you will. So if anyone has any questions, I'll entertain and answer that.
None here.
Okay, 5160.
And this is just a regulation. So this is to just inform the board that we've updated the complaint procedures and the administrative regulations in accordance with feedback from civil rights. So this is like if someone complains, what's the process?
Going back to physical activity, I'm sorry, I couldn't get off mute fast enough. I'm surprised that this one is not in a temporary change for COVID related. This looks like you're talking permanent change for physical activity, but is there not a temporary change for a COVID situation with kids doing physical activity or gym class during this time period?
What it's still saying is there should be 20 minutes of undirected play. So whether that's recess in the classroom or, what we're contemplating for our elementary schools is almost cordoning off the field into different sections so that you can still have some cohorting of students, but they're outside a little bit. So one might be the blacktop, one might be this area of the field, this area of the field. And there is no executive order to
keep the 20 minutes in.
Yeah, to keep the 20 minutes out. Yeah. So the undirected play of 20 minutes is a rule. And, this is just saying that at a PPT, students with special needs maybe would have a different schedule for that free time if they're having,
Okay.
different needs. So this is really just undirected play. We would, in our state plan, have gym, PE classes either in the classroom, ideally outside. And if we are using the gymnasium for gym class, then we want to have what's a, kind of a cleaning measure in between classes. But that's why we're trying to cohort our kids by having specials go to the classroom. But with physical education, it may be bringing them outside.
Okay.
Any other questions on that? Or any of the other 3 new permanent policies changes?
So all of these, if the board is moving them forward, all of these, except for the purchasing, would be a 1-read requirement for the Board of Ed to pass. The purchasing would be a 2-meeting requirement. So with that, do we want to move the last 3 policies or 2 policies and regulation forward?
We have a motion to that effect?
I make, am I off mute? Yes, okay. Make a motion to accept the changes to the permanent policies
As presented.
as presented.
Second? Okay, any more discussion?
Any more discussion? Sorry, you do that.
Any more discussion?
Nope.
Okay. We do a vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Say aye.
Well, I
Okay.
wanna-
All those opposed? And any abstentions?
Together tonight on this policy subcommittee. Have a good evening.
Okay, you too. Take
Thank
care.
you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Stay cool.